Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about living a life that reflects your values and priorities. Welcome to Engineer Your Success, the podcast that helps you lead with intention and live fulfilled.
Welcome to the Engineer Your Success podcast. I am Dr. James Bryant, your host and your guide to designing and living a life where you are winning at work and at home. Today, we're going to do a continuation of our RVA leadership series. We've talked about workforce development, love as a KPI, Richmond being a technology hub. But today, we're going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart. And that is the path of your career. And it doesn't matter where you start. It matters the journey that you take and where you end up. We have a very special guest today. We have Matt Evington, and he has a really interesting story. And I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to allow him to tell it. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. I really appreciate you having me on here. I think this is a great show you got going on.
Oh, thank you. So we're going to start off with something that's a little bit different. So, Matt, how would your family or close friends describe you in one word? What's the one word they would use?
Ambitious, I think.
Ambitious. And why do you believe that they would describe you in that word?
I just am always looking for the next thing to improve myself on in most areas of my life, whether it's my career, which is obviously a huge one, or I'm always messing with my diet and trying to find time to exercise and trying new exercises. And it's just something I've always really been focused on.
Okay. All right. And so I'm going to ask you the same question. How would your coworkers or your team describe you in one word? Is it the same?
Maybe not ambitious because they don't know me as personally. I would say, though, I'm always willing to do whatever work is necessary. So if I had to pick a word, it's on the tip of my tongue. Hardworking is two words. And it's also, I don't think that's the right word to describe it.
Okay. Diligent.
Diligent. That's the first word that popped in. So let's go with that. Let's say diligent. I think I'm always willing to put forward the effort, though. I don't know what word that would be. That's how I would say my coworkers would say, I'm never someone to argue like, hey, I have an assignment. And I'm like, great, it's something new to learn. Hey, you just did 2 days worth of work and we need you to redo all of it. Okay, great. That means that you caught something was wrong and I get to redo it. That's always my attitude towards things.
So I want to talk a little bit about your career progression. I hinted at this in the intro, but can you talk about your entryway into engineering? And what I really want you to do is talk about your journey from start to where you are now.
Sure. So my story when it comes to my career, I wanted to always have a job where I do a very good job applying my skills, something I enjoy, something that really contributes to everyone around me. I think that's the three things I always focused on. And so I tried a lot of different things. I really didn't have a direction. I worked as a retail person and was like, oh, maybe I could work at Walmart and, work my way up. At one point when I was like, 19 or something, I worked with landscaping. So I was like, this is something that I enjoy being outdoors doing. And, one day you can start your own business. That's a very common thing in landscape work, but none of them were really a fit that I liked. So my friend actually recommended and was with me through the whole journey. His father is an engineer. And he told me one day, hey, did you know community colleges are an option? Because you're always looking, for the next thing I see. And I was like, yeah, but, it's really expensive. And I'd be nervous about taking out that much debt to be able to find out that, I wasn't doing good in college, that kind of thing. I always knew it was a thing, but I never seriously considered it because of that. But he talked to me about how there's so many grants. And, I really didn't pay out of pocket for anything with all the grants that I ended up doing through community college. And, I was just like, I'll take one class at a time. And I took a pre-calculus class at night. And it was really scary and really hard. A really funny story. Actually, some guy got really scared and frustrated during the first test and just left. I couldn't believe it. He was so upset. And I think that if he just stayed through it, he would have been okay. But he was really upset about it. And that's where it began for me with community college.
What did you study in community college?
So I went for general engineering. His dad was an engineer. And, I remember my friend saying, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I like what your dad does. And he was like, well, that's a tough thing to do. You sure you want to choose that? You think about music or art or anything else? And I was like, nope, I like engineering. If it's too hard, then I'll stop taking classes.
Yeah. Okay. And so you went to community college, you got your general engineering associate's degree, and then what was the next thing for you?
Make a decision on which university. They have the guaranteed transfer agreement in Virginia, which is a great program that is, I wouldn't have done it without knowing about this program. If you get a good GPA, it's different per school, you guaranteed to transfer to that university. And Virginia Tech was my choice because I wanted to go into civil engineering. And the reason I wanted to go into civil engineering is because I had actually been working throughout my entire time while doing community college over 4 years as a materials testing technician, which is a position where you actually work for a civil engineer. And although it isn't an engineering position, I was kind of in that realm, and so it just made sense to me naturally to move towards that direction where I already knew that I had been doing pretty well in that realm of a career.
So you were doing materials testing, finishing up your associate's degree. You go to Virginia Tech. How was that transition for you from, working associate's degree to now going to tech?
It was terrifying for me. It really was because I'm just like I said, just making the jump to go to a university is a very scary thing. And when I did make the jump, I felt great about it. And I just kept my head down, kept focused, and worked my way through it. It just didn't feel real to me. I lived in one place my whole life until to be clear, I started community college when I was 26. As I said, I floated between jobs until my mid-20s and ended up doing well with materials testing. So I was an older student, but back to what I was saying before, I had never lived anywhere else. So moving to this place up in the mountains I'd never been to before was a really fun experience. It was exciting, and it doesn't even feel real to me because I'm back home where I was before. It just feels like
Yeah.
that was a dream.
Yeah. And so, what advice would you have to someone who may be struggling or thinking through that same kind of switch? They've been in one place, they're thinking about going to a university, whether it's engineering, regardless of what the nature is. What kind of advice would you have for them?
Do the same thing that I would do. People have different personalities and different ways they do things, but the best way to do things is just to jump into it. And it's a low risk. It's very easy. Just go into the community college, your local community college, and be like, hey, I'm thinking about going here. Someone will give you a tour. Someone will tell you how things work and all your options. And that would be my advice to start, is just go to the local
Okay.
community college and talk to someone.
Okay. And then what about the transition from community college to the 4-year university?
I think it's just about jumping in. Again, it's really scary, but if it's something you think is right for you, I think it's worth the risk.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in a few times so far, you've talked about things being scary. What I love about what you're saying is that you don't allow that fear or that scariness to stop you from taking that step forward.
I think everyone should try to do something at least sometimes that's really scary, because chances are the reason it's scary is because that's what you should be doing, as odd as that sounds.
That's great. Did you have a particular specialization for your bachelor's degree?
So it was Virginia Tech Civil Engineering program, and Virginia Tech is, in my opinion, and I'm biased because I went there, the best civil engineering program in Virginia. I didn't want to go out of state, and there wasn't really any specialization I went to because the way their program works, you pick a few specializations, and you know. My thought on that note was to become a project manager for materials testers. That would have been the natural next step with my 5 years of experience as a materials testing technician. But when I was in there, I really liked civil 3D, which land development is a specialty for that. So
Mhm.
to answer your question, land development is where I found myself going rather than staying in materials.
What drew you into Civil 3D and land development?
It was kind of a mix of both worlds in my eyes. I'd worked blue collar jobs before going to college, and blue collar jobs, it's more about your experience and some certifications in order to move up, and progress in your career and try new things and do things. With college, a lot of times it's about your education level. And both in civil engineering, and that if you get a bachelor's degree and a license, you are essentially at the top of your career at that point. You have all the options you can do. Now you can do more. You can get a master's degree and PhD, and there are special directions you can go with those things. So I'm not saying that there's no reason not to get those. But for me, as a blue collar person, I found that land development with Civil 3D is more of an experience based position where it's not necessarily about the education level as it is. You make sure you're educated enough, you make sure you're experienced enough. And it's
Yeah.
that mix of those two things.
Okay. So you finished up at Tech, and then what was next for you?
I went to my first job. I was excited. I got it like 3, 4 months before I even graduated. And I was nervous about finding a job. Civil engineering industry is looking for people right now. That was something that drew me towards it as well. And I moved to North Carolina with my wife. She already had a job there. And it worked well because, again, speaking within the industry I chose, anywhere there's roads or buildings, they need a civil engineer. My wife is more specialized in the work she does. She can't do it necessarily everywhere. She does research in pharmacology and toxicology. So she got a job. She graduated before me. And then I was able to find a job at a reputable place that I'd been familiar with in materials testing. And
Okay.
that was the next step for me. It was to start working in not too far away, 2 hours down 95 in North Carolina.
And so what are you doing now?
So right now I work in the renewable energy sector on solar farms.
Tell me about solar farms.
So solar farms, there's a number of interesting things about it that I really like. It's different than the work I was doing before with warehouses and neighborhoods. There's residential and commercial. And for this kind of work, at least the solar farms that I'm working on, you actually build these solar farms and then you actually have to come up with a plan to remove them because they're not permanent, which I think is really interesting. So that's a new aspect to the work that I really like to it. It's just always finding something really interesting. And something else is that for the other type of projects that I was working on, there was more roads and there was more, I think, regulations when it came to a number of things. And for solar farms, there's new things, but there's not as many specifics as, like I said, there's a warehouse you have to build and you got to build a parking lot and you have to put handicap spaces. There's no parking spaces on a solar farm necessarily. There you have to have an access road. So you don't have to worry about ADA, which is a really big thing, for example, in this kind of work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I really enjoy the idea of working on something that's so forward thinking, and I really like it.
What drew you to that specific part of the industry?
So for me, we moved back, as I said, to Richmond because we wanted to be close to family, to start a family. We didn't have that social support. And so although I am here and I find it really interesting, that was really second to me for the people that I met that I really started working here with. I really like them a lot and they've continued to be great. And so to be honest, it's not as much about the type of work as it was the people that I work with. I'm still fairly new to the industry. I haven't earned my license in about 2 years of experience now. And I think it's good to get exposed to a couple of different things. And so I was drawn to it because it was something new and interesting that I'd never worked in before. But really more than anything, it was just the people that I get to work with.
Okay. And so where is your ambition and tenacity going to take you next?
Oh, I was just talking to my wife the other day. I cannot sit still for anything. My poor wife. I'm always thinking of something new that I can do in a lot of aspects of my life. In my career, though, I got to tell you, I'm really happy here. I'm really happy to learn this kind of work, and I want to stay here because it's been the best experience. And so if I had somewhere I wanted to put that tenacity, I would say would be at the moment towards getting my license, which, I mean,
Okay.
that's a pretty ambitious thing to go for. It's a tough test, and you need
Yeah.
the experience and to pass the test. Right now in
You know,
Virginia, you can take the test before you finish the experience, which is nice. So I'm about to start studying now that our baby is born for the license.
yeah. You talked about really enjoying where you work and the people that you work with. What makes it different or, when you compare it to places that you've been in the past? What makes this group special beyond just the people?
I think it's the culture. And I think that's something that has to do with for like personalities and just individual experiences. I think that, as you said, it's not bad or good, but there's, certain ways that people are that click with other people. And something I will speak to the culture besides that it's good fit for me is they're very open about having conversations about anything anyone wondered about. I mean, something big right now is AI. And we have open discussions about like, hey, what do you guys think about this? What are your thoughts? And that is a game changer for me that I really feel open to being able to have these conversations with not just coworkers, but like my boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss. Like all these people are really involved. And we have these great meetings where, it's not just about the logic of it, right? It's like, what do you feel about this? How do you feel about us going this direction? What are your thoughts about how we can work towards doing these things? And to have that openness is, for me personally, very important.
When you think about the impact that you want to make in your community here in the Richmond area, what's the impact you want to make there?
I think that I think that community and whether it's local, state, or federal level, there's always something moving forward and it's very fast paced. And I think that some things work and some things don't. So I try to have this mentality. I think this is the right thing for the community. I want to contribute in a way that is beneficial to the trial and error of if this works for the community. I do
Okay.
personally think that the work that I am doing is great for the community. But let's say for some reason it's not the best option and there's something else that would be better. I'm also happy about that. I'm happy to point it out myself because I want to find what works. So I am happy to be, at the moment, a lesser cog within this greater machine that has everything up and running, the society that we live in, the community that we live in. And I think that this is going to be a great thing for our local community, whether it pans out exactly as we hope or it doesn't.
If someone is listening to this podcast, they want to get in contact with you, talk about your journey from community college to a 4 year, or even learn more about solar farms and the industry that you're in, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Definitely my LinkedIn. Please, send me a message. I love your message here. I love your podcast here. When you contacted me, I'm really
Mhm.
excited about it because I think I do have a unique story and I hope it inspires people who are thinking about trying to do better things in their own life and their career to go make a jump and take the time and make the time, take a risk. So please, if you have anything about this, I'd love to be able to help you and talk to you and just send me a message. LinkedIn for sure.
I really want to just thank you for taking the time for us to have this discussion. But now we've reached this ending part of the conversation where I do a mic flip. And that is where you become the interviewer and I am the interviewee. Matthew, what is one question that you have for me?
So I think I thought about this and I thought of something really relevant. And I just want you to tell me your thoughts just as soon as I say it, not good, bad, or anything else, just your open thoughts
Okay.
about it.
All right. All right. I'm getting ready.
Okay, you can tell it's going to be a big one. What are your thoughts about AI in our industry in the future? That's something I was discussing before, and it is very relevant.
I think it's going to be, well, let me take one step back and just say that AI has been an integral part of our industry, even if we didn't know it. When from the different estimating software and models and stuff that we've used, AI has already been there in the background. It's taking more of a prevalent place, but I think that we will continue to leverage the benefits of AI in our industry. There's still going to need to be a human in the loop to check whether it's checking the calculations, checking the underlying theory, making sure that you understand how the different calculations come about or the results come about. It's not going to be at least in the immediate future, I'm going to put this information into an LLM and it's going to it's going to spit the exact answer out for me. But the usage of AI in our industry will continue to increase. I think the impact that has from a learning perspective is there are people that are looking to use AI for shortcuts. And it's not so much the shortcut. It may shorten your analysis time, but if you don't understand the underlying analysis, you're setting yourself up for failure.
The second one I had in the back of my mind, if you weren't but so interested or whatever it may be, was what's your favorite engineering marvel? You ever seen the show Modern Marvels? Classic.
Ooh, that's a good one. The two that immediately come to mind is the Hoover Dam out in Nevada and the Great Wall
Oh,
in China, in
interesting. Okay.
Beijing, China. Yes. Both of those modern engineering marvels to me. I have no idea how they were able to construct the Great Wall for its length and the steepness of many of the places, where you're walking, because when you start to understand the history, kind of the way the layout of the terrain, they had some high spots where they would have people with the arrows. And so you would have to try to come up to them to get them. And they were able in an advantageous position to be able to shoot down their foes.
I love those answers because I agree. I don't think about the Wall of China. I think about the Hoover Dam every once in a while, and I watched that episode of Modern Marvels actually. So it's great that you said that. But the Great Wall of China is also a great answer. And now you just made me think, well, man, I should visit that one day.
Well, Matt, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been really great, and keep doing the great stuff that you're doing, please.
Hi, this is James, the coach in your corner. One thing I've run into over and over is people who are hesitant to take the next step toward a goal or something that they actually want. This hesitation is usually caused by fear, uncertainty, not knowing what's on the other side. But whatever the reason, they just won't take that step. But here's what I want you to hear. There is never a bad time to take the next step toward the future that you want. Don't let the fact that you haven't taken it yet stop you from making progress now. It doesn't matter where you start or when you start. What matters is the journey that you take and where you end up. Consider this. If you don't like where you are, the position that you're in, the position of your job, whatever it is, it's only going to change when you take ownership of the fact that you play a role in that change. If you don't do it, who else will? Nobody is coming to save you, but you have the ability to save yourself. So don't wait for the perfect starting point. It does not exist. Take the step you've been putting off exactly from where you're standing right now. The best time to have started was yesterday. You want to know the next best time? It's right now. I'm Dr. James Bryant, the coach in your corner, and I want you to be great this week. Thanks.